Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Building Blocks, in which we're continuing to talk about lyrics, and we're also continuing to focus on Hummingbird. So this is one of the songs that I've done an initial back on track video for, and I'll put a link for that somewhere. And it's also the song that I've chosen to use as the illustration of various concepts of lyrics that I want to talk about and think about and improve upon. And my first episode on lyrics was talking about evolving ideas and really introducing you to the notepad and how lines evolve from page to page. Today I really want to talk more about the content of the song itself and some of the lyrical ideas, and why when I deconstructed some of the lines of version 1 as it stands on screen at the moment, there were lines that I don't like. So the first couplet, like a flower in winter looking for a way to survive, I thought was a decent enough idea. I thought it might have potential, but in the end, I just think it's not strong enough. It doesn't have to be horrific to not be strong enough. And that's a really hard thing to identify in one's own art, whether it's the music itself or poetry or painting or whatever artistic endeavour you engage in. Sometimes you know it's not fantastic, and you try to find ways to improve it and kind of rescue it, really. But sometimes you've just got to let it go. It's just not good enough. At the end of the day, I've not been able to find a way to make that sentiment not sound pretentious. It's really hard to be truly objective about your own work, and pretension is one of the biggest pitfalls, because it's really easy to think that you're being super arty and really intelligent and insightful with your multifaceted meanings and layers and plays on words, and more often than not you're just being a bit of an arse. And I think that's essentially what it turns out that those first couple of lines suffer from. It's just not good enough. They're not strong enough. And so they get thrown away, and that's fine. And so we work through the whole song like this, trying to find the lines that sound great. I talked about So Still, So Quiet being great in the song, and that will live. And some of the lines that I just like the sentiment or the flow of the words. And as the storm clouds pass, the hummingbird flies. That's going to make it through to the end. Under the soft warm summer sun, that one. A blur of rainbow tones, he skitters and dives. These are lines that I just really like. I think that works really well. It's a nice image. The words sing really well, and I've got no problem with letting them through. So I had this rating system where I said, anything that's in an 8 or above is like absolutely in, sacrosanct. And then you've got the 7s they're good enough. You can write a song with 7s, 8s, 9s and 10s and be okay with it, but you're trying to improve the 7s if you possibly can. So let's have a look at version 2. We've already seen this and we've talked about it a fair bit. So firstly, let's talk about the shape. And this is something that I'd not really considered before in lyrics. And again, I'm anxious to avoid being pretentious, but I think sometimes this stuff actually does matter. So for a moment, can we kind of treat poetry and song lyrics as the same thing? If we just call lyrics poetry that has music behind it, and then I'll use the word poetry because that's really what I want to talk about. And I think lyrics are just an extension of that. Does it matter what shape your poem is? It's one of the idiosyncratic features of poetry is that it's not justified. It doesn't look like prose does. And I mean, if you saw that at a glance, without reading a word of it, if you saw that on a page, you would instantly know it was poetry. And the other version, less so. Probably still yes, to be honest. But if I stuck a couple of these sentences together and made it all longer sentences, then we're getting to the stage where, very possibly not. Whereas the other one, you've really got... Where is it? There we are. You've got no choice other than to call that poetry. It clearly is. Does it matter? words are being sung, so they're not being read off a page. Is it so important with lyrics that they look different and they're read different? That as written, you would read it and pronounce it and enunciate it differently than if those sentences were stuck together. I don't know if that matters, but it's something that's come to mind recently. I like writing lyrics like this, with a single idea on a line, that if you sit down and read the lyrics of the song, you're going to think about them differently. I think about them differently, and I wrote them. So I'm going to start treating that with more respect, that the way the words are actually laid out on the page does matter. And I think this is one of those tiny details that is really easy to just skip over and say, oh, what are you talking about that nonsense for? Concentrate on the important stuff. It's entirely possible everything's important, and as long as you don't get stuck in the rut of doing it for the wrong reasons, doing it to be arty rather than trying to generate some emotional mileage from it, then I think it's fine. At the beginning of the song, we had "Like a flower in winter looking for a way to survive," and I talked about how I didn't like the song starting with on the first beat of the bar, "like a flower." It just didn't sound right, and I'm not starting on that beat anymore, and I think it's an immediate improvement. It's really easy when I'm writing lyrics to think that I have to fill every bar, and now I have a moment of rest at the beginning of the bar, and I'm starting later. I've thrown a whole group of syllables away, and suddenly the song just feels better to me. The lyrics feel better. So now I'm just saying, with barely a murmur, silent I hide. That sounds better to me. I've still got deep in the shadows I linger, so still, so quiet. And as an initial verse, I'm now happy with that. I need to get Pauline to sing this. I want to hear what these new lyrics sound like, and whether the greater space is helping the words that are there to actually breathe a bit more. The other thing that I wanted to talk about with these lyrics in particular is at the beginning of verse 2. So let's jump down here and let's compare it with what we had previously, which is over here. So initially we had "So I search for a reason, lifting my heart to the sky." I think fails the pretension test, actually. I don't like the line because, I don't know, it just feels cheesy. It was okay. Again, it's another one of those things, it's okay as a placeholder. And there's some credit, some value in the sentiment, but I threw it away because at the end of the day, I didn't think it was strong enough. And now we've got "like a fragment of reason, writing out my rhymes in the sky." Ironically, that's more syllables. And as I say it, as I just read it out then, it kind of jarred on me a little. So maybe I'll try to pare those down a bit. But just for now, let's think about the couplet. Am I supposed to explain what that means? So this is one of those situations where this thing that I'm doing, the One Man and His Songs project, is all about lifting the hood on all of the various processes of writing a song and talking about them and telling you what I'm struggling with, and then when I feel I improve, talking about those improvements and hopefully mapping that progress. But the writing of poetry is probably the most intimate and personal part of the entire songwriting process. The poetry side of things, the lyric writing, is the one where the songwriter is really exposing themselves to the greatest extent. And I don't know how much of that I'm actually supposed to talk about. This isn't a rhetorical question. I'm really curious to try to figure out what I'm supposed to do here, because sometimes lyrics aren't completely obvious. That it's okay to be ambiguous, even in my own mind. If I write a line of a song, then I don't know exactly what it means. If it sounds good to me, then I'm okay leaving it there. But am I supposed to talk about what those lines mean to me? Furthermore, there's a second layer to this question. Am I supposed to talk about that to Pauline, who's singing this song for me? I'm really struggling with that one. I just don't know. And the most ambiguous pair of lines in this song as it stands right now are those, like a fragment of reason, writing out my rhymes in the sky. I know what they mean in my head, or I have ideas for what those lines might mean, but how much am I supposed to explain that? So I want your opinions, please. Let me know what you think I should talk about. How much should somebody talk about their own art in terms of descriptive, prosaic description of the specific images or meanings they have when they write a line, and particularly in the case of poetry that's designed to stretch language beyond its normal usage and encourage you to think or encourage you to feel, I suppose. One thing I'm pretty sure of, I like version 2 better than version 1. I think the lyrics are getting better. In fact, I'm at the stage now where I don't think there's a 6 in this song. I don't think there are any lines that are just placeholders and that I'm continuingly unhappy with. So I could publish those lyrics as the song done. So I'm really enjoying using this single song as a kind of test harness for lots of different things that I'm thinking about with lyrics at the moment. But this concept of describing lines of poetry that I write is occupying my thoughts at the moment. I don't know what to do about it. So as always, your opinion's more than welcome. Please let me know what you think. Thanks very much for watching, and hopefully I'll see you next time.